Okay, let's get started. So thank you everyone for coming. We're really excited about this webinar today with Hamid from LegalSoft. He is the CEO of LegalSoft, one of our best partners, and we have McKay here, who's the VP of Product at Assembly Software. And we are the creators of the cloud-based management platform Neos. And today we'll uncover aspects of running prepare you for. Law school is not business school, and they're very different skill sets. And so we're here today to discuss this with you guys and provide any information that could be useful for you. So we will kick it off from there, and you guys can take it away.
So yeah, again, my name is McKay Farrell, VP of Product Management here at Assembly. I've got as far as background, I've got a degree in business from Washington State University. I've been in the SaaS space for 20 plus years, really managing product for enterprise software companies, primarily in B2B, anything from legal to SureTech, insurance, medical, really have been the big things. But I've also been a business owner. So I created a business from the ground up. Built it successfully and sold it. And so one of the things I learned quickly about that and what I leaned into heavily was how I would leverage data, technology, and my partner resourcing. So I could really focus on driving results and growth of the business. And what really is getting me excited about this specific topic today, or what we're going to be discussing, because it really follows those themes. And ultimately, Hamid has a extremely broad and successful background in a lot of these spaces too. So again, just by nature of background in the specific topic today, as it relates to business and some of those core themes, couldn't be more excited to be joined here with Hamid to discuss these things.
Wonderful, McKay. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Hamid Kohan. I'm the President and CEO of LegalSoft. My experience has been primarily for the first 20 plus years. It's been in the high-tech industry in Silicon Valley experience, several companies like Sun Microsystem, Compaq, HP, and those type of the companies. And I've created several companies in the tech sector and the business sectors. And about 8 years into the law, where I got exposed to opportunity within the law business, which I call it a business because from Silicon Valley point of view, there is only development and there is business. There is no other practicing of anything. So when I got exposed into the legal industry, I found a lot of opportunities and a lot of issues that needs to be resolved, and how the law practices need to be converted into other business processes and implementing technologies into those practices and be able to scale them. I also have my own law firm through ABS program, so I'm exposed on the legal side too. And we work with over 1,000 law firms where in the past 4 years, we have deployed a lot of different programs to helping the law firms to grow, expand, scale, and efficiently using technology and thinking outside the box, sort of bring a mentality of the high tech into the legal industry, because nothing about it is traditional anymore, at least for most parts. So that's what we'll be covering today. So moving to the next slide. We did a basic description of who we are and what we do. But our base is in California. We're global. We have offices in 8 countries. We work with 1,000 plus law firms actively. And we have about 200 staff within the LegalSoft, and we have about 2,000 of our agents deployed into law firms nationwide in all practice area. So something that we want to talk about, what is not covered in any kind of a attorney training process. I happen to have 2 kids in law schools. One goes to Vanderbilt and one goes to Pepperdine. So I know exactly what they're teaching them, and they're not teaching them anything about how to operate anything. At the best, they learn to understand the law to some degree even. So what they don't teach in the school, basically you start with, they never show any of the attorneys coming out of the school to how to set up a business, because end of the day is business. You're providing services, you're getting paid for your services. Doesn't matter if it's contingency or the billable hours, you're still a business. And it's getting a lot more difficult and complex to set up and operate a business with all the avenues for marketing, for staffing, for technologies, and so forth. You need to have, just like any other business, you need to have a marketing strategy. No clients, no work, no pay. It's pretty straightforward. Doesn't matter what type of practice or where is it at. So is not something that is taught in the school, and it's not something that when you start your first job, they will teach you. They will put you in the case, we're a client, and they give you the case and say, work the case and don't worry about anything else. But that anything else is a lot of different things that you need to worry about. So the marketing strategies is you need to have, how am I going to market my law firm? Starting with the social media. Social media is a major impact into any business. I always use the example, well, I want to go have dinner with my family. They look up the restaurant social media and reviews and so forth just for a dinner. Just imagine if I have a case and I want to retain an attorney for my case. I want to look at the entire social media presence, all the posts, all the engagements, all the interactions. So again, if you don't have a system in place, you will just basically do a couple of posts, sometimes too personal, sometimes too stiff. And so you need a team and a strategy to do that. And it's not as expensive as people think. Like in LegalSoft, we do a complete social media management for law firms for less than $1,000 a month. And that means video editing, video posting, interviews, engagement, and all kinds of things. And now you have so many platforms to do that with. You have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. I mean, it just goes on and on. That itself is, at some point, is more complex than running the legal side of the practice. So that's one thing as far as the strategy. The second thing is organic marketing. Everybody thought, okay, I'll just get somebody to do a website for me and SEO for me, and I'm good to go. That is probably like 10, 15 years ago. It's very competitive. Your website needs to be very engaging, very interactive. Lots of video contents you need to put in there because people like now to see people talking, doing things, whatever. That's all video content. Testimonials, Google reviews. Again, you're going to look at everybody's review for anything you want to do. So you need to have those reviews. And again, with engaging outside services like LegalSoft, you don't need to be able to do all of this yourself. There is an affordable way to do this. Getting testimonials is a very systematic thing to have testimonials. It's not just like once in a while asking one of your friends and family or somebody you know to do a testimonial for you. Every time you have a success in the case, you have a happy client, you need to deploy somebody to go get a video testimonial from that person. You put it on your social media, you put it on your website. It becomes a part of your firm asset. All of those contents, reviews, and videos are assets to your firm, not just your staff, your attorneys, your settlements, and so forth. This is part of the whole puzzle now. And then people want to see if other people experience with the firm, and that's how you get from those testimonials. So you're building up your website, your social, with a lot of those positive contents. And that's, again, another piece of that whole puzzle. The third one is lead generation. I always said there's only 2 happy days in the law practice: when I get a client, when I get a check. And it doesn't happen magically anymore. You need to be able to generate leads continuously, invest in the lead generation, and not just depend on the referrals or friend and family. That only carries probably about 20-25% of a law firm who wants to scale and grow. The other 75% has to come from lead generation. Another myth about lead generation: a lot of firms think, I just go hire an agency, pay them $10,000 a month, and I'm going to get stuff. I'm going to get clients. That's not true. You need to be very careful about spending your money on lead generation. You need to have a KPI for them. So if you're engaging with a campaign company or an agency, you're telling them, look, I'm practicing PI in Texas, and I can afford to have cost of client acquisitions for $1,500 per client. can you make that? So you got to give them targets and KPIs about your practice and your location, so they have a target to meet. Not trusting them to say, don't worry, just give me this management fee, I get you tons of clients. That is like a used car salesman mentality. You need to hold them accountable for the money you're allocating and what is the ROI you're expecting from it. You need to dictate that. And if they can't meet it, you move on. And my suggestion is to always have at least 3 lead sources, because not all of them works out. If you have one success out of the 3, you're doing well. And one usually doesn't work out at all. So you need to be able to do your lead generations. Now, client acquisition and retention. Based on all the 3 above, bring them in social, bring them in organic, generate them through the lead systems, your reputation online, your testimonials online, and then having a system to be continuously engaged with the clients. That don't forget about a client that you served 5, 10, 15 years ago. Don't assume that they're just going to come to you on the next accident, on next employment case, on next contract. They don't, because they get hijacked on the way there with all other social media, all the billboards, all the radio, everything that's targeted to steal your clients from you. So you need to be engaged with them through ongoing SMS marketing, monthly electric newsletters going out, a variety of different, contacts going forward with your previous client. You have to value them extensively, because that's, again, is the asset to the firm that you need to protect, because everybody is after them and they want them to become their client. So you need to protect it very closely. So the next slide. So I can talk about marketing strategies forever, because I think that's how you make the law firm grow and scale and go to the next level. So now we're talking about, we're taking care of all of this. Spend money here, spend money there, get the lead generation, spend money on generating content, client retention, and everything. But you need to know your numbers. You can't sort of wing it. Again, it can be what I said before of the happy day is I just signed a great client, and the next happy day is I got this much money from this case. You need to track it internally through whole process. You need to understand your budget, your cash flow, keeping every budget of staffing, marketing, lead generation, everything intact. You need to lay it out for 12 months and have accountability for that. So when you're committing to the ad campaign, let's say, you say, I can afford as a law firm to spend $10,000 a month for the next 12 months to generate 120 clients. You need to lay that out and commit to it. You can't just go in there and spend $20K on the ad spend and say, I knew this is not going to work out. Forget about it. I'm not doing this. I'm going to call my buddies and get some referrals. You have to make the long-term commitment, accountable for it, and budget it. Okay. If you don't have the expertise on marketing, online presence, lead generation, finance, you need to retain those somewhere. It is through contractor, consultants, affordable, of course. I'm not talking about going and spending a lot of money, a lot of staff, and a lot of expertise, but you cannot do without it and trying to just do it yourself. A lot of people, I ask them, do you have a finance person, accounting person? Say, yeah, there's this person, I pay $200 a month and it gives me the P&Ls sort of after the fact, after like 3 months gone by. I get a P&L that I can't do anything about. Instead of having an ongoing finance, it should not cost more than a few $100 a month to have somebody managing your cash flow and finances and reporting it back in the timely manner where you can take actions on, not after the fact. Is imagine the year is closed out, you pretty much got to pay taxes on whatever, and your accountant tells you 3 months into the next year, oh, by the way, you got to pay $250,000 in your income tax. Well, you should have told me that within the year so I could adjust it and create, whatever to protect myself. So anyway, you have to take those finance situations seriously. It's part of your firm, and money is really what, for most part, you're doing this practice for. Using the right technology, and God knows there's plenty of them now. For a while, when I came to this industry, I don't know, about 7, 8 years ago, the CRM was the client or case management system. First of all, they were outdated. The second, everybody just, if I got a CRM, I'm good technology. I don't need to do anything anymore, which is not true anymore. There's so much technology that you can deploy within the firm to be able to increase efficiency, productivity, accountability, and less dependency on staff. So let's say, for example, intake. Intake can be completely automated, and you don't need people being ready to go on their phone and write things down or send an email or things like that. There's automated intake systems. We actually in LegalSoft, we have several intake automation systems that we make available to our client at no cost. So they can have a complete customized intake process for free. The next part is like document collections. Every practice type has some sort of a document collection. It doesn't matter if personal injury, employment, workers' comp, estate planning, all of it have document collection. You don't want to have a bunch of people sitting in office, expensive, try to collect documents from insurance company, from the defendant, from client, and all of that. We automated that. So, by the way, that part is also free in LegalSoft. So you can use that tool to be able to collect documents from clients before you retain them, before you actually need to put them into the case management software. You need to have it to put it in there. So communication technologies, marketing technologies, engagement technologies, and all of this stuff. Like, for example, we're talking about Neos. I don't know how any firm can operate without having a solution like AssemblyNeos to start the practice. And everybody sort of wants to do it later. Instead of doing it up front, setting it up so the system and the solution you just bought can scale with you, they do it after the fact. Then they need to import information in there. Then they need to set it up, and they don't have the time. So my recommendation every time somebody asks me about opening up a law firm, or they just started a year ago, whatever, I said, first thing you do, you stop everything, go get a case management software, and start playing with it, customizing it, setting it up, and start training your people on it. Don't postpone these things. You can't postpone it and say, it's just like when you go to school, when we got your law degree, you can't pick and choose what you want to do during that 3 years that you're going to school. They set it up for you from beginning to the end, and then if you pass, they give you a degree. You can't just come in the middle of it and say, I'm going to be the 2L. You can't. You got to be a 1L first before you become a 2L. It's the same thing with this case management software. You need to have it right from the beginning. You pick a name for your firm, you get a case management software to go with it. Number one of the reasons I actually got into this practice, one was the scalability. And when I told them how to scale, I used to do consulting for a lot of different law firms to scale the practices. Number one was always, they have no plan to scale anything, to no marketing, no lead generations, no software, no automation. Well, we did all of that and was actually successful. So we created, there was one law firm that in specific in LA that I was working with, and they were doing about 20, 30 cases a month. And in a matter of a year, I brought them up to like 120 cases a month. And when I did that, they actually said, okay, we need to stop, because there's no way that I can recruit, train, and place and afford enough staff to handle this kind of volume. So basically, they coming back and say, because I can't find people, I don't want to grow, I don't want to make more money. So then I had to jump into the second part and be able to find them a staff, automate them, train them, and deploy them. And that's what sort of the beginning of the LegalSoft at some stage, where we had now to, okay, we grow a law firm, we set it up, we structured it, now we need to staff it. Well, there was no way in any demographic area in the country I could find enough staff that are affordable, willing to work, that are grateful to have the job, and all of the above. So we started staffing globally. So when you break down the tasks and you say, okay, I have intakers, I have case managers, I have document collectors, I have people who do discovery for litigation. So we started this virtual staffing, which is ties to the case management software. So when you have your case management software figured out, now you need to train people to use it and be able to customize it and use this automation process that the case management software like Assembly brings in. So you're truly building the factory. A lot of people hate it when I call it the factory. It's really a factory. It's just a law factory. Leads comes in, it's just raw goods. It gets sorted out. It turns into the good screen material, which is your intake and being a case. They get retained. They go on the assembly line. They get documentation is collected. The case is filed. The treatment begins. It's a factory until the end that the person who was injured in a case of a PI is good to go. Now I'm basically sending a bill, which is the invoicing, which is a demand. So demand is writing an invoice. Okay, now me and my clients and then my doctors all need to get paid. So here's the bill. And then they negotiate the bill, which is a lien reduction and negotiation and a settlement. So it's really a factory. To set up that factory, you need to compartmentalize your practice to people who do intake, people who do document collection, people who do case management, people who do discoveries, demands, and settlements. And you need a case management software to do that. So now it goes into hiring these people. Well, haven't seen a firm who can successfully hire or can afford or can locate all the people they need locally anymore. It's sort of like it's become a thing of the past, like pumping gas for $1.99 a gallon. Some people done it in the past, but doesn't exist anymore. This is the same thing about the staffing. That's how we set up the staffing to be. We recruit, screen, train, deploy, and help manage virtual staff from 7 different countries that we have presence on. So what this means is that we probably look at about 5,000 resumes a month, narrow it down to like 300 or 400 candidates. We screen them to be candidates to be trained and deployed into the law firm. We place about 200 new virtual legal staff into the law firm in 12, 15 different practice areas. And these are virtual staff who are full-time, trained and dedicated to work for a single law firm based on their time frame. So these are intake staff, as I mentioned, is very successful because if you don't have bilingual intake dedicated staff, you're leaving money on the table. You're missing cases. You're missing retained cases. So you need to do that to begin with. And that's part of our staffing process. And we also go beyond that. Not only we train them on the personal injury, employment, estate planning, we also train them on the case management software that you use, like Neos and Assembly. We train them so when they start, they actually know how to work with that platform, which expedites the process. So you don't have to sit down and teach them the basic. This is how you log into Neos. This is how you open the matter. We do all of that. So when they come, they have that training done already. So having access to the global resource, again, beside the availability of the resources, some of the things that are very major for us is folks who are committed and grateful to have a job that are affordable. This is a very main thing. Is like these virtual staffs cost anywhere from $200 to $2,500 full-time, fully loaded staff that it can only be possible globally. And we have law firms right now that have upward of 40 to 50 virtual staff spread out into the practice, from legal assistants to intake, all the way to remote attorneys. We were able to recruit and place folks who finished law school in other countries, which means they have understanding of the basics of the law. Some people come and say, but they don't understand US law. Well, a lot of the folks I know who passed the bar here and studied in the US, they don't understand the law either. So they just read the stuff, passed the stuff, they got a license to practice. So these folks will, they're finished law school somewhere, most likely in English language anyway, and they have an understanding and the discipline. The discipline is to be able to understand California employment law or New York employment law or Texas personal injury law. And they can have the discipline of learning that and do that. They're not licensed in the US, so they work for your firm as a paralegal. But imagine a paralegal who has finished law school, who you retain them for less than $3,000 a month, full time. They can do discoveries, motions, appeals, filings, everything. They just don't sign on the bottom line, which you review and sign anyway. They write demands and they're available. So when your practice grows, you can have 2, 3, 4, 5 of these folks working for your firm, and they're easily retained, trained, placed. And if you're scaling back or you don't like certain people, you can terminate them. It's not like California. I'm a California company. You basically can't terminate anybody because the employment laws are so bad here for an employer, where it's very expensive and difficult to terminate a non-performing employee. So, but with virtual staff, you just give a week notice or something, and we replace them for you. We change them and things like that. And this allows you to be able to have what I call the work-life balance, which is a buzzword nowadays. Is when I was doing the coaching and consulting for the firms, one of the first things I did, I have the attorney write down the entire list of things that he or she does. And I draw a line somewhere in the middle of it and say, everything that you're doing below this line, you shouldn't do, because on one hand, you value your hours at $500, $800, $1,000 an hour, and everything below this line is at $20, $25 an hour. So how does your time value changes during the day from 800 to 25? So you need to optimize your process, get this virtual staff to do those kind of a task so you can attend to the more important tasks and duties. So those are some of the highlights of the virtual staffing benefits. We talked about the scalability. We have a little delay on the, okay. So this merging and building a team when you're doing the virtual staffing, and some of the people even have US-based staff that are remote, and now they're adding, to me, I've always said, if they're not sitting right in front of me, then I don't care where they are, because I'm just engaging with them with the Slack and text and email and the calls anyway. But you need to still build a team. Doesn't matter if you have virtual in 2, 3 different countries, remote staff in the US base, or even somebody in a different floor. Is building that team, making them as a unit, as a law practice, and being able to relay that message of you, the clients, who you're getting a team. You're not getting one attorney, one paralegal, one case manager. You're getting the entire team because you have built a team. So that's very important. The next slide, please. KPIs, something very foreign to the legal industry. When I start talking about this to the firms that I was coaching, they were like, what do you mean? How can I, we just get a case, we do our best, we deliver results. And I said, well, that's not good enough anymore. That's like a one-man shop. So you need to have a KPI so you can drive your firm and the staff above and beyond the minimum contribution. Every single person out of that 200 staff that I have has a KPI with a bonus attached to it, because I don't want anybody to do the bare minimum. I want them to go above and beyond. And when you asking them and incentivizing them to go above and beyond, most likely, most do, especially the virtual staff, and you get much better results. And your efficiency doubles when you have a KPI. So, for example, I'll give you some example with intakers. Every time my virtual staff do an intake successfully, I give them $25 bonus. Well, in Philippines, Ecuador, Colombia, 25 is equal of like $250, $400 here. So you have to measure it like that. So all the intakers do their best to retain as many clients as possible, and they're not looking at it as a minimum job done. When I have a case managers, I have a quota for them to do certain amount of settlements. So it says it's $140,000 a month settlement target, 20 cases to be closed out, or any kind of a KPI. It is designed for them to meet those KPIs, get an extra bonus, because everybody's set up to live off of their base pay. You make 10,000 a month, you live off of 10. That's pretty typical. Unfortunately, in the US, we make 5,000, we live off of 5. We make 50, we still live off of 50. But when these folks are the same way, but when you give unexpected bonus of 1,000, 2,000, 500, whatever, it drives them to do more and do better and produce more, and holds them accountable to that. So having this KPI, I have it for attorneys, for paralegals, case managers, even people who collect medical records. Say, if you collect 50 medical records a week, I give you $50 above and beyond your pay. Okay, or if you do 20 lien reductions, or everything that you want them to do above and beyond, put a number in front of it and put a carrot in front of it, you get a lot more. And I usually do a lot of KPI building for the firms from scratch, from receptionists all the way to senior litigators. So it's very effective.
Hamid, can I add something here too? I
Sure.
think you're hitting on something that's so critical. And when we're talking about this specific topic about what you're not going to be learning in law school, it's around defining business measurement, right? Like specifically when you're talking about KPIs, it should start at the top and work all the way down to the bottom. And to your point, what you do, and what every person on this call should be thinking about is, what does success look like, and what does your business look like in a year, 3 years, 5 years, and put numbers to that. That's really what should be driving the KPIs from the top all the way to the bottom. And everything that you're saying has been spot on and across, the business world, and that we've seen in the legal space as well. If you start with your goals in mind, and then you bring in these key performance indicators, it's going to help you shift and react. And as we get to the technology side, you'll see how we kind of report on that. But this is, in my mind, it's like the number one thing you can do as a business: say, where do I want to be? Where do I see this business? And then put those measurements in there. And there's a concept, and you hit on this a little bit earlier too, Hamid, on even though it's a service and law as a service, it's still essentially a factory, right? There's concepts around Lean Six Sigma. There's something called DMAIC, which is define, measure, analyze, implement, and control. But it's all the same thing. Define what your goals are, and using the SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So there's ways to bring all these concepts in to actually drive towards an outcome. But if you're not measuring KPIs and really tying them to specific goals, then you're not going to get the outcomes that you're looking for.
Right, absolutely, McKay. And we actually, in legal stuff, we made an HR policy where it says every offer letter that is extended to anybody has 3 components: your base, your KPI bonus, and the benefits. And usually it goes like this: if I'm hiring a marketing director, I'm saying it's $120,000 base, $30,000 annual bonus target, plus this benefits. I don't extend any employment offer or contract without the bonus with KPI, because I want everybody to go 120 miles an hour, not 60. Because if I'm asking them to go 120, I gotta incentivize it for them to do so. I can't just demand it or ask it or wish for it. So we have a policy. Every offer letter has that component built in, and usually is about 30%, 20 to 30% of their annual pay is considered the KPI bonuses. Next slide, please. So this is the other extended, after you've done your scaling, your accountability, you have your automation, you have your case management software, you have your virtual staff, everything is in the process. You're not done. You're never done. You're continuously improving whatever you've done before. It's just like when a lot of people will talk about like Google search. Google keeps getting bigger, because they have to improve the search on a daily basis. Is because they're constantly evolving the company. All of these companies who created the software, I refer to a lot of software because that's the word I came from. They say, okay, so Microsoft develops this software, releases it, so they can let all the developers go home and just start, getting the financial benefits from it. It doesn't. is a continuous effort to improve everything that you already set forward and expanding the goals and targets that is matches your own firm growth. So career development is a big thing. You don't want your case manager be a same level case manager for 20 years, even though traditionally that's how it was. I encourage a lot of those firms to use, in the state that supports this, is to use different training techniques to elevate. Like there's an apprentice program in Washington, in California, a few other programs, where it allows you to take any of your staff who work with your legal firm, law firm, if they work with your law firm for 4 years and they engage in this program, which is called apprentice program, in 4 years, they can actually go and pass the mini bar and become an attorney. It's unbelievable. But that system exists. So you want to take your good performers and encourage them, put them into this program, and make them grow their own career and scale, and be able to continuously give them feedback for expansion growth. Don't leave them alone. They're your asset. Just like the clients that I said, they're your asset. You need to protect them. Your staff, doesn't matter if it's virtual or local, you need to look at it as an asset that needs to grow and expand and do better for themselves and the firm.
I mean, we have a question from the crowd.
Yeah. The question is, what type of KPI could be set for secretary/assistant to do not have billable hours?
Sure. So if you take in the count where if your assistant, your secretary, your receptionist, if it was the best you could have gotten, what is the task that she or he would have complete perfectly? And those are KPI. If it's opening the office on time every single day, to not making any calls go to voicemail or go to the answering service, or is opening, scanning, and putting all documentations into your case management software within 24 hours. So anything that you always hate when you come to the office and say, damn, these envelopes did not go out, this envelope did not get opened and get a scan into the case files, 5 calls went to voicemail, all of those stuff is a KPI. Make yourself perfect. I incentivize.
Yeah, can I add something to that too?
Sure.
I love this question. So what we do, and this has been something that I've kind of done throughout my career, but what we do at Assembly is we have business goals, and this goes back all the way to the top. Like if you know where you want that to be, you can align specific metrics to it, and those goals don't necessarily have to be just financially driven. They ultimately will result in financial impact, but some of those things could be your overall. We use NPS scoring and others within that. One of them, customer health score. We will use customer effort score. But what we do is we take these different scorings and say at the end of the year, we're measuring things along the way. And we know these things have an impact to our overall health of our business. And what we'll do is say this employee, for specific employees and specific functions, we'll roll that up into that ultimate goal. So we'll say, in this case, you could say, secretary or assistant, to your point, Hamid, how often am I answering calls versus letting it go to voicemail? What you do is you set a baseline there and say, okay, if I'm getting 90%, it is most likely going to reflect our business in X way. That could be overall happiness of a specific client that you can build a measurement to. It could be as simple as return or referral from that client to another client. I mean, there's a number of ways to do that, but essentially, as long as you're rolling it up to your business goals, there's a number of ways you can do that. And depending on your software, there's ways that you can track activity codes that aren't necessarily tied to billable hours. Neos is one of them. I obviously need to put that plug in, but this really goes back more to just make sure you're aligning your goals and your employees' KPIs to the overall business. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of clarity when you're looking at those scenarios.
Right, absolutely. So moving on to more metrics. Again, the factory needs to have metrics. Every factory, from Amazon's to any manufacturer to any software company, everything has a metrics. So the questions I ask when I used to engage with the consultation, which I call the practice evaluation or practice tune-up, was almost nobody ever answered any of these questions because they didn't have the data. which by collecting the data, you can answer it. So I'm asking you, what is your cost of client acquisition? Exactly, not between 2 to 7,000 or between 500 to 2,000. It makes a big difference that what that number is. So what is the cost of client acquisition? And then what is your add value cost that you're putting on that case? So let's say I'm a personal injury firm. I got a case that I know as a fact that cost me $1,500 to acquire that case. And then how much time my staff is spending, what period of time. And when this case is settled and I'm getting my net attorney's fees are like $10,000. For a lot of the firms in California that I did that evaluation, on the low value cases, they all lose money because the cost of client acquisition is about $2,000. It takes an average of 18 months to get a case settled. And the minimum policy in California is 1530s. So a lot of the cases get settled for $15,000, which law firm ends up with $5,000. If I did the calculation, they pretty much lose about $1,800 per case every time they sign up one of those cases. So you need to know exactly those numbers and continuously reduce the time that it takes on those cases that are contingency cases, especially because you're not charging billable hours. So every hour you spend is actually cost to you. And you have to treat it as cost. Imagine yourself, you are charging yourself those billable hours. You're going to change your mindset how you treat the contingency cases. They're not free. You're spending time on them. So you need to know how much did it cost me to get it here? How much did it cost me to complete it? What was not my net profit? And how am I going to turn that back into the next case? So measuring the ROI, just like a business, is a must for any growing practice. Even when you're doing a referrals. I have an interesting story about this referral thing, just to do real quickly. When I did this evaluations, I found out on a lot of those contingency cases between employment, workers' comp, personal injury, and so forth, the net attorney's net profit ranged between 23 to 27%, okay, of the fees collected. That was the net profit. So I converted a lot of those firms to do 100% case referrals at 33 or 40% referral fee. So I get all the cases in, I refer them all out, I don't do anything about it, and I get more than my net profit if I practice them. So I get 33 or 40% without doing anything. So you have to evaluate all of those parts of the business to be able to have an efficient system, automated system, and productive system.
Yeah, and if I can add one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
And it's probably more than that. So this is why, like, we specifically at Assembly love, really, really tying into the metrics, and it's specifically working with Hamid and LegalSoft. They come at really they're looking at your business on how you can actually drive real change. And when we're talking about metrics, these are the metrics that matter. We're rolling up to your overall business goals. Those things are extremely important, and especially when you're looking at your case management, you need to be able to track those things. And we were talking a lot about intake here, and essentially, the way that we look at it on our side of the business, going back to almost Lean Six Sigma and manufacturing, but it all starts with the top of the funnel. And for us, the top of the funnel is marketing, inbound, or it could be outbound leads, but it's your marketing funnel. And then it drives down into different stages of your sales funnel, which is essentially intake. You're making a decision based off specific factors, but then as you're moving through specific actions and services, it's still kind of pushing through that manufacturing line, but you're making decisions along the way and actually measuring those. And so you actually have to build out stages, or should be building out stages and statuses, so you know what success means at each point of that funnel, because every single little lever you pull in those can change the success rate, or it can change the amount of money that you make as part of that process. And so again, when I go back to specifically, working with LegalSoft, these are the things that really move the needle, and why, again, and as I mentioned earlier, being a former business owner, really appreciate this kind of view, because on the Neo side and assembly side, we built software that supports it. But there's not enough knowledge, so to speak, in the space, and this is what a great topic around, what you don't learn in law school, because many people come out and don't really understand how important these things are. So to set your firm up for success, a lot of times it's really important to go back and say, okay, what's most important? What can I do? And what do I need to actually go get outside help on? And what we've seen is when you go get outside help for some of these things, and you can learn some of it yourselves, but it's really good to focus on the areas of your business that are going to matter, those levers that you can pull, and bring in somebody who can help you, who could talk you through those. And you might know half of these things, you might know all of these. Sometimes it's good to get that additional help, as I mentioned before, creating business, selling business. Um, I I had to identify what my strengths were, what my business strengths were, and really prioritize where I'm deploying my resources, and then letting others help me in areas that were important or I didn't have the knowledge, or at least to help bring me up to get that knowledge. So all the
Right.
things we talked about here are critical, and ultimately the data tracking is you can't do anything unless you're really tracking
Yeah,
that data.
you need to have the data, otherwise you're just driving blind. You need to have data, and you have to have it structured, and you need to have accurate data. Sometimes the bad data misleads you into bad decisions. So one of the attendees asked, how do I measure profitability for a contingency-based firm? It's kind of pretty straightforward. So let's say you settled 100 cases this year, and you got $3 million out of those cases. And then you take your entire firm expense from cost of client acquisition to your payroll, to your overhead and so forth, and you divide that up to those 100 cases, and you identify how much was your cost and how much was your net profit. It's complete calculation. And you can do it monthly, quarterly, or annually. So in average, out of those 100 cases, your firm got 12,500 per case average. So I'm multiplying that by 100. So I made 1.25 million, and my cost was $1 million. So I have $250,000 profit. I divide that up into the 12 months, and I know now I basically make $2,500 net profit to the attorney per case. So that's that calculation. I know I went about it kind of fast, but that's really just calculating it, just like balancing your checkbook or managing your home budget.
Yeah, and another way that we've seen firms do this as well is specifically within Neos, we have a lot of contingency based firms. Um, as called out here, we have built-in reports, advanced analytics, but we do things like tracking activities and checklists. So we'll have an activity code assigned to that. What you can do is you can take the average time spent on those activities and get very granular and tie that back to who actually performed the activities. So you can see, based off of not only your average time, but how other employees have spent their time, you can actually start applying a dollar value metric based off the hourly rate to those specific activity codes. You can actually see that over time. It's one of those things that's really important, kind of going back to setting metrics, really understanding your own data and what your targets are. This goes all the way back to lean manufacturing and capacity planning. But if you understand what the time it takes in a specific task or workflow, you can start working backwards, saying, okay, well, this type of case for these insurance limits are typically going to result in X amount of dollars. You can actually start working backwards and saying, well, based on certain conditions, does this make sense for me to take? Should I reevaluate this? What's my historical performance been here? And to Hamid's point, of all the past evaluation or a period of time where you can say, what's my average value in those, you can start to see those things pretty quickly,
Right.
especially if you're tracking like stages and statuses within kind of the entire funnel.
Right. Great. So the next slide, please.
On to any additional questions.
Great. This is the part I like.
All right. So the question says, can Neos generate monthly bills for hourly billing cases? The answer is yes. Yep. We also have automatic timers. So You could, when you're jumping into a case, we can start it automatically. We also have manual timers that we're going to actually provide, that we actually push that into something of value, and then you can invoice directly out of Neos in that manner. And we also have a QuickBooks integration.
The question is, does Neos integrate with LegalSoft? We essentially, with the combination of Neos and what we call a LegalSoft 360 platform, is a tool platform that you use to run the entire operation. No other tools is required. So the LegalSoft Practice 360 handles everything about operations and marketing and case generations and so forth. And Neo does your case management to be able to run the cases through. So that's that kind of integration. How many months or a year do the virtual assistants or virtual paralegals typically remain with the firm? We have a very good question. We have a 98% retention with our virtual staff. This is the reason why. We give them our own incentive program above and beyond the firm incentives. We give them health insurance. We give their family members health insurance. We give them a retirement account. And we give them immigration assistance if they ever want to come and visit the firm. So because of those reasons, they stay with us long term. And we have a year-round training for them. So we are helping them to improve and expand their skill set. So it's not like when you go to Upwork, hire somebody, after 30 days, they get another offer for 25 cents more an hour and they jump. With us, they don't do that. How do you calculate attorney realization rate? Well, that's a tough thing to do because a lot of the attorneys fill that list that I mentioned that I put up and say, what do you do all day? From the $20 an hour task all the way to the $850 task is very difficult to do that unless they actually focus and optimize their time where it's spent on higher valued tasks and cases. Frank is asking, how large is your staff? My LegalSoft staff itself is about 200 staff, but we have 2,000 agents deployed in about 1,000 law firms. And those are our contractors, by the way. When we're placing this virtual staff in your firms, is on a fixed cost monthly, all fully loaded, and is a 1099 to the firm from LegalSoft. So you don't have any employee relationship or cost or liability. Everything is on ours. Thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it. The gentleman said it was an excellent presentation. Definitely got my ROI by attending. If there's anything else that we can help with, please contact LegalSoft team and they be able to provide further information for you. Another person has instead of hiring a human, generative AI has been utilized. Great question. I didn't get to do that. I just published a book a few months ago about how to scale your AI law firm. So my first book that came out a year and a half ago was How to Scale Your Stupid Law Firm, which was because of my experience building up law firms, and was an interesting topic. But we actually at LegalSoft, we just deployed a complete AI development team, which I called it, PI AI, because we focus a lot on the PI. So we are using AI right now for intake. We use AI for demand generations. We're going to be using AI for case management process, and hopefully all of the transactional law that is going to be taken over by the AI, being immigration, corporate formation, estate planning, bankruptcy, all of the transactional laws. In my estimation, in about a year, the process begins eliminating the attorney need for any of those transactional law, as long as it does not involve litigation, which is about 90% of the cases are all pre-lit.
Yeah, and McKay can talk real briefly about what we're doing with AI and Neos.
Yeah, on the assembly side, and I love that question too, because I think as an industry, we know that generative AI it's going to be transformative, right? It will change our industry. Our approach on the assembly side is to build it into workflows. We currently have a beta in Neos that is really focused around document generation right now, specifically demand letters, pulling in data, allowing you to regenerate documents of the or components of the document, change it, and do all those things and get kind of real-time feedback there. Those models will continue to change and shift. So there's a lot of effort in there right now. There's always going to be humans in the loop, meaning, you know, whether it's your law firm, somebody within your firm reviewing, editing, and feeding the model. But we believe that that AI is best used as part of your workflow. So areas that can actually make you more efficient, faster, that can provide additive value, identify things that you might not have seen, to really drive different results. So we are investing heavily in AI over the next year and probably beyond, because we believe it absolutely is going to change this industry. And again, for us, we want to embed AI into your workflow, not necessarily make it, you know, a point solution or something you have to go out to, but do it in the system that you're actually working in day to day. So there's a lot of exciting things that are going to be coming out on our side. Really looking forward to getting real data to show, you know, where there's areas of improvement and work, and, you know, all the things from an efficiency and gain standpoint. So pretty exciting time.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I would like to thank you all for attending and thank Hamid and McKay for presenting and sharing some of their hard-earned knowledge with us. And we will see you on our next webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Hamid. Great as always.
Thank you, McKay. Bye-bye.